Hi, my name is Renee, and oops, I meant to move that before I started recording. Hi, my name is Renee. I'm an appliance care and maintenance specialist, and recently I went on a field trip to Electrolux's North American headquarters in Charlotte, North Carolina. Full disclosure, I was not paid to make or asked to make this video. However, the trip to Electrolux HQ was a generous gift from Electrolux and P&G, so huge thank you to both of them. That being said, this is my official Electrolux trip vlog. First things first, if you saw my South by Southwest vlog, you'll already know that not only did I just get home from that trip 1 week before I left for this one, but you'll also know that I struggled a lot with my anxiety on that trip. I try my best to speak openly and candidly about my mental health, so just as a quick content warning, I will be discussing my anxiety here and there in this vlog. But every trip begins with travel, and I particularly struggle with travel anxiety, and as of my South by Southwest trip, food anxiety. So I tried my best to prepare better for this trip so I didn't have the same issues I did during the previous one. I woke up early enough, had a big breakfast so that hunger wouldn't trigger my anxiety, and made sure I took my anti-anxiety meds. Then I grabbed my noise-canceling headphones and headed to Bradley International Airport, where I still loathe their hidden motion-activated soap and paper towel dispensers. Ugh, even just looking back at the video, worst design ever. Once I was through security, I made sure to eat more food so that I definitely wouldn't get hungry, and once we boarded the plane, I used this cool little phone gadget holder thing to hold my Switch while I played Crash Bandicoot, which was fun and everything was going great. Until the pilot came over the intercom to say that there was some sort of a refueling issue they had to resolve before we could take off, and that it would take 25 to 30 minutes. Which would have been fine, but after 25 to 30 minutes, the pilot gave us a quick update that it would be another 25 to 30 minutes. This continued for 3 hours. We would get an update every 25 to 30 minutes saying it would be an additional 25 to 30 minutes.
Just know that our operations is well aware of our delay here in Charlotte.
We were allowed access to the restrooms, but that was it. They told us that if we decided to get off the plane, that would mean we were deciding not to continue with this flight and that we would need to take our carry-on baggage with us. Even though the entire 3 hours, the plane was still connected to the gate. I was doing okay at this point. I was miserable overall, but I had taken my meds, eaten food, and I was just waiting out the delay. When we finally took off, I was relieved until we encountered really bad intermittent turbulence that was bad enough that they had to cancel food and drink service entirely after making 2 attempts. So that was fun. Then we finally landed in Charlotte, North Carolina, where the pilot came over the intercom once again and said, and I quote, "Well, folks, to add insult to injury, our gate isn't ready yet, so we're going to have to taxi for another 10 to 15 minutes, which, of course, turned into half an hour. Now, I want to make something clear. I do not blame the pilot or the flight crew in this situation because I understand it was a mechanical issue and not their fault. I was pretty irritated that they couldn't just give us a realistic time frame instead of leading us on for literal hours, but I also don't know if the pilot himself was being given realistic timeframes. That being said, I finally got off the plane and went to meet the driver from the car service hired to pick me up and bring me to the hotel, who had been waiting at the Charlotte airport for me to arrive the entire time. I apologized to him profusely, but he was very cool about it. I saw another content creator in the wild getting recognized at baggage claim, still no idea who that was, and then we headed to the hotel, which was absolutely gorgeous and one of the nicest hotels I've ever stayed in. You couldn't even use the elevator unless you had a room key. It was very cool. At this point, although I had prepared as well as I could have, I was hungry, which meant I was getting anxious. So my first order of business was to order this amazing chicken Milanese from room service. By the time I started eating, I was already in the middle of a pretty bad panic attack, so eating food was a struggle, but I made it work by calling my partner and having him talk me through it, which really helped. Once I was ready to go to sleep,
oh boy, do I have a story for y'all.
I even felt well enough to record a video of me talking about my travel experience so far. By the next morning, I was feeling much better and was so stoked that I was finally going to be visiting the headquarters of a major appliance manufacturer whose products I had been working on for years. Especially knowing that that manufacturer is over 100 years old. We began our day with a warm welcome and some very nice gifts from the Electrolux team. And then a full breakfast buffet prepared by chefs Adam and Joseph of Poppy Seed Kitchen in Fort Mill, South Carolina. And while we ate, Caroline told us about the history of Electrolux.
People were also huge on sustainability.
And she really wasn't kidding about sustainability. Everywhere you look in this place, you can see just how much they care about sustainability and the environment. Electrolux is also the parent company of Frigidaire, a company that's had a lot of firsts in the appliance industry. Honestly, I love when a company wants to show off the history of how they got to be where they are. especially when they've been around since the early days of electric appliances. And when they played a major part in the development of appliance technology. Once we learned about Electrolux's past, we were taken to learn about their laundry appliances in the present with Joey, who told us how sustainability plays a huge part in the design of Electrolux laundry appliances.
Our sustainability goals, we have some pretty aggressive ones that we have set for 2030. And so our fabric care goal is to truly make clothes last twice as long with half the environmental impact. We know from a clothes cleaning performance, from an energy performance, from a water usage performance, front load is going to deliver on all of those things in ways that top load can't. But the biggest thing for top loaders is, of course, that they are not super gentle on your clothes. To Eddie's point, that agitator in there kind of spinning around, it has to be there because that's the only way that you're going to really knock your soils out of your clothing. Whereas in a front loader, you've got not only gravity, but then you've also got the clothing to clothing motion. And so with all of that, that's why from an Electrolux standpoint, we've really only invested in our technology in this front load space, because that's where we know that more consumers are switching to. And it's also the way that we know that we're going to meet those sustainability goals. That's the way that we're going to deliver on clothes lasting longer. That's the way that we're going to deliver on more energy efficient laundry products and products that are using overall less water usage than a traditional top loader.
Then he had us put their washing machines to the test, a 15-minute fast wash test against chocolate syrup. Although technically we did a 19-minute fast wash because this washer has a special way of dissolving pods, so that's what we used, but more on that later. Oh, and that's the hand of Lori, also known as Now It's Clean, beside me. We're both members of P&G's Laundry League, and we both had two very different methods of applying the chocolate syrup to the aprons. Honestly, I like her method better. It's certainly a much better stress test for the washer.
So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and place this in the unit. We're going to turn it to our 15-minute fast wash. And then because we have pods selected, because we put a pod in here, it's actually going to bump it up a few minutes to give that pod time to truly break down. And so we're going to go ahead here and click start and let's just get right to work.
For clarity, the fast wash cycle is specifically designed for lightly soiled, small loads of laundry. And I know that for a fact because Electrolux was kind enough to gift me a washer and dryer set of my own. So of course I read the manual where it explains which cycle is best for different loads of laundry. While we waited for the aprons to finish washing, Joey told us about some of the key design features of the Electrolux 600 series.
We're worried about odors, mildew, mold that might build up. And that's again because, if you take it from the dispenser and we'll work our way down, here there's a whole bunch of water that's being flushed into this area. And sometimes some water sitting in one of these compartments and it might be there for a little while. You'll kind of notice design-wise, these chambers are all rounded. So you'll see there's no like sharp corners or anything like that, which really is unique to us. Most other front loaders out there with a dispenser are all very boxy, which means a lot of corners, which means a lot of crevices that are very difficult to clean and remove mildew and odor and other buildup. So the fact that all of these compartments are rounded makes it very easy for water to be poured in, flush everything into the pre-mixing chamber, and not leave much, if any, residue behind. If a consumer does have water that's built up or they do want to run this under the sink, super easy to pop out, pour out any excess water, give it a quick little run under the sink faucet if you needed to, and then you can pop it right back in. Also want to call out that the big star of the show is, of course, that area specifically for pods, but you'll notice that we've still provided opportunity for all types of detergent. So what's really key about it is that we're not saying, hey, in order to use Smart Boost, you have to use this type of detergent. This is what you're going to have to go with. No, we're really still allowing them to have that choice, and we're being respectful of it. They might be making something on terms of, budgetary reasons, sustainability reasons. We want them to be able to use any and all types of detergent that they might want to, where they feel comfortable with.
I also really appreciate the fact that it actually has good contrast text for which different compartment instead of just like a molded plastic thing that you can barely read, because that's sometimes it's difficult to read that and not everybody is capable of reading things easily that are tiny little prints on that.
Yeah, and we also know from consumer insights and stuff, a lot of consumers that have already switched to front load and maybe have been using it for quite some time, sometimes still just don't use the dispenser at all. They might not even be aware that there's anything going on until they just always put their detergent right in the drum, regardless of what type. So the fact that, again, even if it's kind of not their first front loader, but maybe now they're really being encouraged to move to the adaptive dispenser piece, there's all visual elements there of what goes where and how much.
I really appreciate him saying that last part too, because speaking as someone who moved out of appliance repair, partially because I saw how much appliance education was needed in this industry, having an intuitive design that's easy to understand is extremely important.
Speaking of mold and mildew, the other big thing for a lot of consumers when it comes to front load units is, of course, how do I keep the door closed? Because this is in a closet, this is in a hallway, but how do I also still vent the unit or keep fresh airflow and prevent that mold and mildew from coming up? This little guy right here, this is a little magnetic door vent that is part of the door design. And as you guys can see here, it's got like a little tip to it with a magnet so that the door can be virtually closed, still keeps it open, just a crack for fresh airflow in and out of the unit, but still allows you to comfortably close those closet doors. If this is in a hallway, you can make sure that they're closed and nobody's running around the corner and banging their knee or running into it, forgetting that it was wide open. So it really allows them to get the best of both worlds, a fresh vented unit, but also allows them to get that door almost virtually closed. It's spring loaded too, so once you pop it out, you never have to do anything else. So again, like if I want to close this, it's just going to pop into the door itself. And then when I open this back up, you'll notice that it popped right back out. It also can be turned to a lock position. So if you have little ones in the home, or we've even heard like cats and things like that, you don't want them accidentally locking themselves in there or anything like that. The washer won't operate if the door isn't closed, so you can turn it to a lock position so that the spring deactivates, and so it truly won't allow you to close the door at all.
That's really smart. I've seen other brands that have that like door springy thingy, and like I've seen other brands that have magnets. I've never seen one with a child lock, though. That's genius.
Listen, 2 for 1. So just to kind of visually demonstrate this, so we've got the tower already kind of built into a closet here. And so again, we've got that little magnetic door vent. So if we go ahead and close this, and let's say we want to vent this unit, but now we want to close these closet doors, you can comfortably close that.
And just in case you weren't already aware that I have ADHD,
Those are the coolest closet doors I've ever seen. We're just going to casually close this awesome designed
Yes.
door.
Don't mind me with my wonderfully fancy closet. But that being said, comfortably closing them, they're not like bumped out or anything like that. We don't have to leave one open for room for that door or anything like that. It's still just perfectly propped open. The other great thing here is you'll notice like the light is going to stay on for about 90 seconds, I believe, and then it will deactivate. So you don't have to worry about, hey, if I want to leave the door open, it's not going to burn the light out or anything.
and then Joey went on to tell us about Electrolux's perfect balance system.
It's the dance that all front loaders do or that we've all experienced before.
The interpretive
And they
dance.
just assume a lot of that is because, hey, I put in a lot of towels or something like that. Your washer can only handle so much weight and so much clothing or fabric inside a drum at one point. And then unfortunately with the cycle and the RPMs that you have the drum spinning around with, it just can't handle anything more than that. So something really cool inside of our unit is what we call our perfect balance system. So that's what you're going to see here is basically a system that is modeled after what skyscrapers use to keep from swaying too much in the wind. How it works is basically we have sensors inside that monitor the motion of the tub, and what they do is they, look for any potential imbalances, and if they sense anything that kind of gets too out of whack, they'll stop the load, kind of shuffle it a little bit to rebalance, and then they'll let the speed, the RPMs of the tub pick back up. This is huge for like second floors or third floors of the home. Maybe your laundry's above your living room area. Maybe it's next to a bedroom or in your bedroom area. We back it up so much, we have something called the perfect balance system and second floor guarantee, which is something that consumers can fill in for a rebate or for money back if they experience a unit cannot be fixed as far as the rocking and the walking of the units go. And Lauren, do you know in the many, many years that we've had it, how many claims have we had on that second floor guarantee?
2.
Just 2. In about 7 years of the product. So the fact that that many consumers, again, we know it's something that we believe in and we stand behind. We wouldn't put the word perfect in it if we didn't feel like it was imperfect. So the fact that, out of the many years that we've had it, it's only been ever claimed twice is a huge test of that system in there. Like you've seen all sorts of installations where people will build in custom panels and like custom, pedestals. They'll create their own space for what is their dream laundry area, not really thinking about, the give and all the weight that comes with a unit and the speed of the drum and all that type of stuff. So it's something really exciting to kind of call out there for us.
And then we learned all about the revolutionary Smart Boost option.
Smart Boost. It's a third pump that sits inside of the unit, and its job is to pre-mix your detergent in your water or any other additives together. Most washers out there in the market are going to be a one pump system. It's just a drain pump for a front load.
I just wanted to pause here to say that yes, I can confirm that he's correct about most washing machines, including top loaders, only having one pump, and about that one pump being the drain pump.
Which means it just drains the water and detergent out at the end of the wash cycle. That's its one job. And it really relies on the spinning motions of the drum to properly mix things up and make sure that no spots get missed. But we all know that can be a little bit ineffective, as we've all probably experienced having clothes that come out and unfortunately a stain is still there or did not get treated fully. What we're seeing in the industry now is that a lot of front load washers out there have started to add in a second pump called a recirculation pump. Been around for quite some time, used to only be available for more premium, higher price points, now becoming a lot more affordable for a lot of consumers. And as the name implies, recirculation, it recirculates the water and detergent at one or multiple times during the wash. It pulls out the water and detergent that's already in the drum and basically recirculates it through this hose and back out over the clothes again. So it helps get a little bit more mixing of the detergent or other additives with the water because it's all being forced into a very narrow channel and then sprayed back out over your clothes. So rather than just kind of the detergent being poured in, the water being poured in, and hoping that the drum mixes them all up enough and covers everything, the recirculation pump just does that to the next level.
So basically what Joey's trying to say here is that the Smart Boost system utilizes both the recirculation pump and what Electrolux calls the pre-mixing chamber.
And its job is to pre-mix the detergent in water. So no other washer out there in the industry is able to do that. How it works is down here at the bottom of the drum, you'll see like a little bit of a bump out, a little bit of a belly on the tub. What happens is during the first 6 minutes of your wash, or in the case of the fast wash for the first minute, water and detergent get poured into that little chamber. This Smart Boost pump then pre-mixes them, spins them around, gets the detergent activated, creates one homogeneous solution. And as you'll see, it's connected to that recirculation pump. So we leverage that recirculation pump to then take that one even solution and spray it out over your clothes. So the minute detergent and water are touching your clothes, the detergent's already been activated, no spots get missed, and that's what has led to our legal claim of having the most effective stain removal in the industry.
I like how you say legal claims.
Legal.
Legal.
And that's not
Good.
just something that we verify, that's something that we have to go through from a company called AHAM. It's who all washer and dryer manufacturers have to run tests through to be able to make any sort of legal claim out there in the market about their cleaning performance or their washer or dryer performance option.
You gotta love it when a company can back up their performance claims with test results.
So then mixing like a premium laundry detergent with your technology is what is essentially allowing you guys to get the best stain removal.
Right. Yep, exactly. And so the key here is really with Smart Boost is that we're leveraging all types of detergent. So we're not saying to consumers, in order to get the best clean, you have to use a pod or you have to use liquid or you have to use powder. We're still leaving it up to the consumer. The great thing here though is of course that they get the option to use any of those ideas. So we know that pods continue to grow, and unfortunately for other washers, you do have to toss it into the drum and rely on that drum motion. So here, taking away that pain point of making sure that it fully breaks open in enough time, the fact that it's just built in.
This exact dispenser is the reason why when people are just like, what do I do with pods? I'm just like, you will throw them into the drum unless your dispenser has a spot
Yes.
specifically labeled for pods.
Up to 2 that can fit in here. And so as you saw in the user interface, there's a little pods button that you can press. So when you press that, you're alerting the washer, hey, I put pods into this little chamber. And what it does is it then pours water down on there. It's like almost like a jet stream to kind of like break open the pod. But then that water is continuously streaming to make sure that we are slowly dissolving it, making sure everything is properly dissolved before then flushing it down into that pre-mixing chamber. So in the case of this test where we're doing our 15-minute fast wash, those 4 extra minutes that were added on to bump it up to 19 minutes, that's a couple minutes to break down the pod with that stream of water coming into that chamber. And then that's the flushing into the pre-mixing chamber for that 1 minute to pre-mix them before flushing it into the drum.
And for those of you who feel like your high-efficiency washing machines don't use enough water, I asked this next question just for you. So make sure you listen carefully to the answer.
Because you guys have that chamber on the bottom,
Yep.
does it appear that there is less water inside of the machine?
I think the big thing is like if you're somebody that watches their laundry or likes to kind of see the visual of, okay, I see water going in, we're good. Yeah, it's going to be a little bit delayed as far as that gratification goes, but no less.
I want to draw attention to the delayed gratification part of what he just said. Because of the premixing chamber on Electrolux machines, you may notice that it takes a while before you actually see your laundry becoming saturated. Basically, before you go thinking there isn't enough water in your washing machine, just let it run the whole cycle. Sometimes it just takes longer than you'd think because the water is in a part of the machine you can't see. Next, Joey not only explained why the Smart Boost feature is beneficial, but he showed us the evidence that it actually works.
But why is that important for consumers? Well, there's two big things. One, we know that some spots are very, very small. We know some stains that you have on your clothes, you might not even realize are there until after you've done your laundry. You're folding up a shirt and realize, I didn't realize I had a stain on the back of that t-shirt. I never even treated it. So what Smart Boost allows us to do is make sure that we ensure coverage over all pieces of clothing, so no spots, no matter how small, get missed. The other thing, of course, is that we activate it right away to deliver the most effective and most efficient clean. So in terms of coverage, this is a test that we do with fabric softener, because fabric softener is meant to stay in your clothing. So the test we did here was we ran some towels through our Electrolux 600 series with Smart Boost. We used fabric softener as the additive with the idea that it is meant to stay in the clothes. We'll be able to test where it's at after by dipping it into a chemical called Blomenthal Blue, which is basically a chemical that when it reacts with fabric softener, turns it blue. So it allows us to visually see everywhere that the fabric softener was. And as you guys can see here, nice, even coverage throughout the entire towel. No spots got missed. We ran some other equal towels, same amount of fabric softener, through some other competitive units. And this was just kind of a run-of-the-mill.
They weren't overstuffed, right?
What's that? Right. So as you can see here, you've got a lot of splotches. You've got some areas that truly got treated by the chemical. You've got other spaces that didn't, that completely missed it. And so, again, this was just a test with fabric softener, but if you think about your detergent, if you think about having a stain here, that would have been a spot that got missed. And unfortunately, if you, like me, you probably didn't realize it till after you dried your clothes. Now that stain is set in, and your maybe favorite shirt or favorite blanket is now potentially ruined and banished to that drawer that you only pull clothes out of to repaint a bedroom.
It's a very unique way to make tie-dye.
Yes, exactly. If you've got somebody else. If you've got us, good luck. That was one test that we did here, but the real test I want to show you guys over here. AHAM is the governing body where we can make any and all legal claims about our washer performance. And so as part of that, they send us these little numbered test strips. We do the testing, but we have to send it back, right, Eddie?
We just follow their protocols. So like the whole industry uses the same test that we do, our competitors will do as well. But that's how, this is like the official number that says that our washer performance is better than competitors.
So all of these, well, these first couple, not the white swatch, are all real life stains that have been baked into the fabric, and then a pure white swatch is stitched onto the very end just to be the control, but also it's numbered again so that when we make any type of legal claim, we have to verify with AHAM. They have the record of what swatches were sent where and to what manufacturer.
This is sebum.
Body oils.
Yeah, body oils.
Think about like your pillowcases, your bed sheets, undershirts, that type of thing.
Carbon.
So think about you're somebody that lights candles all the time.
Okay.
You've got smoke that settles on the walls, also settling on your clothes. Blood is not human blood, by the way. It's pig blood, right?
Chocolate and wine.
And then you've got the chocolate in the wine. With this test, it's designed to not be beaten. These stains are baked into these swatches. So what we do is we run these through various cycles according to the tests. Again, like Eddie said, that every manufacturer does the same protocols. And then we have to look at them under a very fancy instrument to look at the actual color of the threads of the fabric. And then we send those claims and those results back to AHAM for verification. The test is designed not to be beaten. However, the other kind of call out about this is that you're really not supposed to see a difference with the naked eye. You're supposed to be able to use this instrument to really kind of get down to the nitty gritty and really look at how ours compares to others. So what's really exciting here is that looking at these swatches from not only us, but from some other manufacturers, you guys can see here, this one in the middle looks a lot fainter than the rest of the bunch. That's the Electrolux swatch that was running that Smart Boost technology. So again, not supposed to see a difference with the naked eye. In fact, if you kind of look at these and look at these, you can see a lot of similar coloring across the board. You look at this swatch from the Electrolux laundry and you can really see just visually looking at it without any fancy instruments or anything like that, just how well this swatch performs compared to the competition. And again, thanks to not only the motions of our tub, the temperatures we're using, but most importantly, that pre-mixing technology and that Smart Boost washer. So we compare it to the original swatch. We just do some competitive testing to be able to show off visually how our Smart Boost looks versus some competitive product out there.
At this point, our 15 plus 4 minute fast wash was finally finished, and Joey showed us the results.
And this was just a quick 15-minute fast wash demo, not even leveraging a full cleaning cycle.
Look at that.
But look at that. No chocolate sauce whatsoever.
Nice.
Thank you. I'll take all the credit. What's really exciting about this is this was truly just our 15-minute fast wash. The fact that we didn't even leverage a stain treat. We didn't leverage any of those specialty options, even though those are available on the washer as well. And the other really exciting thing here is that this lab actually doesn't have hot water. So we ran this on a cold water cycle. So again, as we talked about our partnership and turning the tide to cold, the fact that you can see how even in that 15-minute fast wash, thanks to the great detergent, but also the fact that we have that amazing Smart Boost technology, truly kind of leverages best-in-class stain removal. Smart Boost is on every single load. That's the really exciting piece here. Unlike some other things that might be an option that you add on, like certain spin motions or things like that, there's nothing on the dial that's going to ask you to like say, hey, do you want to premix the detergent? It's automatic for every single cycle. And for the fast wash, it'll just be 1 minute that it premixes. Every other cycle will be a full 6 minutes.
But wait, there's more. No, seriously, just wait till you hear about the innovation behind the Optic White cycle.
With the dial here, you'll notice that we have something called Optic Whites. So this basically took our already best-in-class white cycle for lighter or bright white fabrics and really tried to leverage our Smart Boost technology and deliver an even more amazing performance. But we set out to do it without the need for any bleach whatsoever. So we know about 43% of households are bleach households, but we also know it's not great for the environment. It's not great for your washer. It's not great for your clothes and the longevity of them.
And a lot of people don't know how to use it right.
Right. So what we tried to basically do is mimic the use of bleach without needing it whatsoever. It really plays into our sustainability mission here at Electrolux to make clothes last twice as long with half the environmental impact. So what we did with this new Optic White cycle is a couple key things. First, we have that Smart Boost technology inside the washer to pre-mix your detergent with the water, of course, to properly remove those stains. But that's only half the battle, because once you remove those stains, especially for whiter or lighter fabrics, you have to keep those soils off your clothes. You don't want them to redeposit, especially as they're continuing to kind of be cycled through in that washed water. So the ways that we do that are twofold. First, we have some very specific motions of the drum, and you'll notice in here, these little kind of flaps on the side of the drum, that the agitator pieces to kind of beat and kind of remove soils and everything, have holes in them. So as the drum is spinning, we have very special, precise movement of the drum for the white cycle so that it spins in a way to kind of knock those soils away from your clothing. So again, it's in that wash water. The soils have been taken out by Smart Boost and the chemical. Now it's about keeping them out. So those fins with these little water channels on them become almost like a little jet stream to kind of knock those soils and keep them away from your clothes. But the really exciting thing here with our Optic White cycle is during the draining phase. So think about it, your wash load is done, your cycle is almost complete, you're seeing the dial count down to almost 0, you're ready to go throw it in the dryer. Think about what's happening to your clothes in every other washer. They're sitting here in a pile at the bottom of the drum, and that wastewater is now being drained out over your clothes. What's important to keep in mind there is that if there's still any soil or particulates in your water and it's draining out over your clothes, those are now just resettling back onto your fabrics as that water is being drained out. So what we do in our Optic White cycle is we tumble the load ever so gently as the water is being drained out to keep the fabrics away from that water as it's draining out at the bottom of the tub and prevent the potential for residue to redeposit back onto your clothes. We know that some consumers might already be kind of thinking about that, which is why they run something like an extra rinse. But the key there is that there's very minimal difference between the water that was drained out and an extra rinse cycle. It's a whole new extra load of water that gets introduced. So environmentally, sustainably, it's not maybe the most efficient use of your water, especially for the impact that you get. We have something called Pure Rinse. So this is a new way of basically providing an extra rinse, but using no extra water whatsoever. It's just how the water that we're already using We just get it clean enough to a point where we don't have to introduce a whole new extra load of water. And not only that, but delivers a better overall residue impact than even our previous best-in-class extra rinse cycle used to compared to the competition. So what you see here are a couple samples. So these are a couple other manufacturers, and this is an example of how much detergent was still left over in the water at the end of cleaning cycle. So these are other manufacturers' performance from what's left over after cleaning their clothes. This was our previous generation of Electrolux laundry with an extra rinse cycle. So you can see already, like, we were doing a much better job compared to the competition with removing residue. But this is introducing a full new load of water at the end of the cycle. That's that extra rinse option to get out some of those residues. This is our result after using the pure rinse,
which doesn't add extra water compared to the extra rinse. So it does have the third load of water, because regularly the cycles will do rinses, and extra rinse or pure rinse will have 3. But now we are reducing the detergent left on the clothes even more without using more water.
So it just splits it the same amount of water, but in 3 rinses?
Actually, the extra rinse already has 3 rinses.
Well, yeah, I just mean the pure rinse cycle
Right.
takes the same amount of water.
Then the extra rinse, yes.
Gotcha.
But wait, just kidding. That was the end of the washing machine information. So naturally, we learned about the features of Electrolux dryers next.
On the electric, we have another feature called out that we call balance dry. And so inside of a normal dryer, something called a relay system. So basically your heater is just turning on or off. Think about it like a regular light switch. The heat turns on, and then once it reaches a certain temperature inside, it turns off to prevent too much over drying or too much heat affecting your clothing and your fabrics. So all it can do is just turn on and off, which creates pretty harmful temperature spikes and doesn't lead to the most efficient drying times. Also doesn't really do a great job energy efficiency wise of, properly drying your clothes. So inside of our electric model, we have instead what's called a triac system. And so think of this as almost like a dimmer switch, where rather than the heat just being turned on or off like a regular light switch, we can variably control the heat. So we can raise it up, and then as we start to see that it's getting towards that max temperature, we can start to bring it back down, but we don't have to shut it all the way off. So it allows us to kind of variably control that heat to keep it nice and kind of consistent, less temperature spikes, less harmful to the longevity of your clothes, but also allows us to dry your clothing at an overall, I think it's like 24% lower average drying temperature. We did it just kind of to show off in an extreme example of what heat can do to your clothing. We know that there are some fabrics like wools that consumers are just not going to put in their dryer. They just do not trust it to do the job that they need it to do, which is dry those items. With our Electrolux dryers, what we're really just trying to highlight here is that you can care for these items, even these items that maybe are a little bit more finicky, a little bit more sensitive to heat. It's just about having a unit that's actually working for you and doing what it's supposed to do for all types of fabrics. Whereas here, we blasted it with some very extreme heat just to really show off how an inefficient dryer really can be detrimental to the overall lifespan of your clothing. Same tag and everything, but yeah, then you can see like the zipper just totally got completely warped. The fact that they can dry those clothes at an overall lower average drying temperature is a great call out to make. And so that's only again in our electric model because it's easy to control the heat in an electric dryer. A little bit more difficult in the gas.
And then Joey told us about what has become my favorite feature of the 600 series dryers because it just makes so much sense.
Some dryers, especially opening price point, entry-level price point kind of models, aren't going to have any sort of sensors inside of the dryer. That's a very easy cost to take out and not pass on to the consumer. And so with all of your cycles, even if you have, multiple different cycles, they're all going to be based off a time that the manufacturer set. So even though you might have options to select from, those entry-level price point dryers are truly just all time-based. They have no idea how wet or how dry the clothing is inside of your drum. What a lot of other dryers have, and some of our models have as well, is what's called a conductometric sensor. This is a bar sensor, usually sits somewhere like here, maybe down in the lower lip, somewhere usually on the front part of your dryer. But basically conduct means touch, so it's a touch sensor. So while we still have times that we set for all of the dryer cycles, it's a little bit more sophisticated in that this sensor lives inside the dryer, and as clothing touches it, sends a signal back to the dryer, hey, these things are still really wet, or hey, these things are almost dry. When wet or damp clothing touches these two bars, electricity passes from one bar through the clothing to the other. So the wetter the item is, the more electricity that gets conducted and passes through, which is great. Helps us figure out, okay, hey, this load was really, really wet when it came in. We're going to need a little bit of extra time to dry. Or hey, these clothing items really dried up pretty quickly. We can kind of speed up this drying process a little bit. The downside here is, of course, one, it relies on touch. And this is a pretty small surface area. So if you think about it living somewhere at the front of the dryer, your clothing has to make its way up to the front, touch this area, and hope that it's signaled to the drum in enough time. Hey, we got to keep going here. The other thing about this is that it's based off surface level touch. So this is where you and many other consumers out there have probably experienced before, things like where your pants or your jeans are dry, but the pockets are still wet. And that's because the conductometric sensor could sense that the outside of your jeans were nice and hot, but it could not sense the dampness of the pockets. Sweat pant waistbands is another big one. Fitted sheets. You go to get it out of the dryer, and guess what? The fitted sheet is piping hot, but everything else is balled up inside of it, and it's still wet because, again, the conductometric sensor couldn't sense the other fabric balled up inside, like the pillowcases. So what Electrolux did on our 600 series, the top of the line models, is we developed something called a capacitive sensor. So rather than relying on touch, we send a signal through the drum to measure humidity levels. That way, we don't have to worry about fabrics hitting a small surface area, and we don't have to worry about them making their way up to this bar area to touch and signal to it. We send a signal through the drum, we measure those humidity or moisture levels, and we automatically adjust the cycle time as needed. So if we're not picking up a whole lot of humidity, we know everything's pretty dry, we can speed up the drying time, end it a little bit sooner so we don't over dry your clothes. If we're sensing a lot of wet items, we know that we can add on some time so that we don't under dry. It's not a touch sensor, it senses through the fabric. So not only are we able to sense the surface level, but we're able to sense through the fabric as well. So that means your jean pockets are coming out dry. Your sweatpant waistbands are coming out more dry. Your fitted sheet is dry, plus the other sheets inside of it that we're detecting and measuring those humidity levels from.
I love that it's an overall humidity sensor instead of a touch sensor. And even from an installation standpoint, I love how much thought is put into the designs of these machines, like how the back panels are shaped to help fit the venting.
You'll notice as you look around, you've got, units on the floor, units on pedestals, units stacked. We're really allowing and maximizing flexibility for customers to put these in any way, shape, or form into their home. But one of the big things that we do to really make sure that we are going the extra mile there is on the back of our dryers. We have something called 4-way recess venting. So right here is the back panel of one of our dryers. The vent piece comes out here. And this is unique to us in that most dryers can only vent 2, maybe 3 ways, but usually need quite a bit of space behind the dryer drum itself in order for the vent to sit comfortably. What our dryer does here is, if this is the back of the dryer, has a nook underneath the back panel that allows the vent to sit basically cradled underneath the dryer so that this can go almost all the way right up against a wall, which means you don't have to build in a deeper closet area or build in extra padding behind the unit just for the vent to sit and nothing else. This really allows consumers to get some of the largest capacity in the smallest area, but really allows us to truly maximize that 8 cubic feet, that huge capacity in that dryer without taking up too much extra space. And that's not just on our front load dryers, but also the tower as well.
And speaking of the tower, which is Electrolux's name for a laundry center, which is a vertically attached dryer and washer combo.
So first and foremost, everything we just mentioned about the front load unit is going to carry over to the tower. The whites, all of those great specialty cycles, also going to be here in this as well. That magnetic door vent. The big difference is, of course, that we're getting into a new platform that we traditionally haven't offered before, but we really see starting to grow in popularity. Stacked washers are nothing new. Many consumers have them in their home. That might be the only option that they have for their home or their space. But the fact now that they can get it all in one integrated unit, and for those customers that are on the shorter end of things, you have that central control panel. So it's very easy to access and control, get visual. The other really great thing here is that unlike any other tower that's out there in the market, our controls are separate. So a lot of tower designs, it's kind of like one very slim user interface that controls both the washer and the dryer. What's great about ours is that the dryer is separate from the washer. But what's also great about this is that they're separate control panels. So like, let's say from a service and repairability standpoint, let's say the dryer needs some work, needs some servicing. This is separate from it. So even though it's all one integrated unit, these controls are on their own, which means you can still use your washer. You can still operate it and then hang dry your clothes while you're waiting for your dryer to get serviced. The other really cool thing here is that the washer's 4.5 cubic feet. That's how all of our front loaders are. So you really look in there and you can see like just how far back that drum goes. Whereas on the dryer side, it's 8 cubic feet. That's where all of our dryers are. But this is the largest dryer for a tower platform. So a lot of the tower units are a little bit of a smaller dryer, which isn't great. Again, that's where you really need the capacity, really need the space for things to fluff up and dry out. So the fact that we have the largest and deepest dryer designed for a tower platform is a huge call out. The really exciting thing about the tower is that it's truly like able to fit a lot of those laundry center spaces, but it's a huge upgrade in terms of overall fit, feel, finish. And the other great thing is, of course, like dryer lighting. We have that in almost all of our units. That's something that not everyone offers. So again, it's one thing to have it in your washer, but for the dryer to be able to have that visualization of like, okay, did everything get dry? Is everything out? Especially knowing that they're going to typically be built into closets or darker spaces.
And finally, a feature that I personally believe should be universal, and evidently Electrolux does as well.
So one thing that is across our entire front load and laundry tower lineup is our Electrolux laundry washers and dryers both feature reversible doors. So again, something that I think a lot of consumers expect is that they can get the door in any kind of configuration, any type of swing they might want. And while that's true for dryers, because it's a very easy thing to control and operate, washers are a lot more difficult. And that's why we were one of the first and still one of the only ones out there in the market that this washer door can be reversed. Some customers really just truly expect that that is part of getting a new washer and dryer unit, is I can get the door to swing the way I want to and fit the space I need to. That's not always the case, and so unfortunately you might have situations where the doors are opening onto each other and you're banging one into the other. So it's really great that they are able to both be reversed and put it right up against a wall, don't have to worry about banging into it. But especially when they're stacked or in this tower design, being able to have the doors open and swing the same way is huge.
Also, like, that's an accessibility thing too. One of my biggest takeaways is like all these little design features, a lot of them do have roots in accessibility too, and I love that.
Right, no, for sure.
After our crash course on everything Electrolux laundry, we went to lunch, where chefs Adam and Joseph taught us all about Electrolux ovens and cooktops while preparing lunch right in front of us. Lunch began with a beautiful and delicious roll and fancy butter. You know your butter's fancy when it includes greenery. Lori and I both opted for ginger beer to go with lunch, which is non-alcoholic soda for those who've never heard of it. I wasn't familiar with this brand, but I was certainly a fan of it.
We're really just kind of utilizing all of the equipment here. So the total convection, the induction cooktops, low temperature, high temperature cooking. And we'll talk a little bit about that, but we don't want to bore you to death with kind of the nuts and bolts of it all. But throughout lunch, we'll kind of explain to you what we're doing and how we're cooking things, we're finishing things. So what we did was, in the total convection setting, you can see I've got it on air sous vide. What I can do also, so very low temperature cooking, what I can also do is instead of air sous vide, I can go down and do dehydrate. So if I set it on dehydrate, I can drop the oven temperature very low, slowly kind of coerce more and more flavor out of the tomatoes. So these have been going for about 2 hours at about 145 degrees. A little bit of salt and pepper, a little bit of garlic, so nothing crazy, but some of that water that's kind of dulling the flavor is gonna kind of reduce out, and you'll get like a little bit more of an intense flavor of tomato. Is everyone familiar with burrata cheese?
I had thought I was familiar with burrata cheese. In fact, I was not, but it and the salad were delicious. Then Chef Joseph started rolling out pasta to make ravioli, while Chef Adam taught us about induction cooktops.
We can go all the way up to power boil. It's about 1.5 quarts of water. It's going to heat up really, really quick on power boil. So this will boil in probably about a minute. But what's fun about induction, everything is getting hot in the pan except for the glass cooktop. So my hands can be right here. We can spatter grease or pasta water, and nothing's going to burn or cook to the cooktop. So it's very easy to clean. But it's also very fast, very efficient, and it heats up really efficiently because of that magnetic connection. So basically, I'm kind of bouncing around, but induction specifically is you're creating a circuit of energy. The pan connects the circuit. So if the pan's not there, the circuit isn't complete, so nothing happens. If I were to come over here, I've got little kids, and they come over here and they start hitting buttons and turning a bunch of stuff on, and there's no pan there. nothing will happen. It'll stay completely cold, it'll beep at you a couple times, or it might blink depending on which one you're using, but nothing's gonna heat up until you put the pan down. So as the pan sits there and connects, it's creating that circuit, and you can already start to see things are starting to kind of roll around a little bit in there, and you see a little steam coming up. So it's gonna come up to a boil very, very quickly, but I can keep my hands right up against that pan. I can actually put a layer of, like some people put like a $20 bill under there, and they'll boil water, or fries, potato chips, or whatever it is, because that paper on the induction cooktop is kind of fun, but it also doesn't heat up and burn. So really kind of a cool thing.
And no, induction cooking isn't magic. It's science. Fast science.
About a minute it takes for these to boil, and I've already pre-done some, so I'll just heat these up.
While I don't remember what they said was in the ravioli or the sauce, I know it was a take on carbonara. What I do remember is that it was absolutely delicious. But that was nothing compared to the next course.
And you can see how quick the sea bass and the oil, everything heats up. That pan was, off a second ago. And I'm gonna create just a little bit of a sauce to kind of cover the fish with.
Sea bass, mashed cauliflower, and oven-roasted sweet potatoes.
You ever have a really overcooked piece of fish and it like squeaks a little bit?
I call it squidgy.
Yeah. And I think that's the issue. People are like, oh, I don't like
hate
that.
that texture.
But with the air sous vide, pretty much all seafood cooks perfectly at 145 degrees.
I'm gonna be honest, in most cases, I hate cauliflower and sweet potatoes. The mashed cauliflower wasn't half bad, but the sweet potatoes, they were so good. After the main course, Chef Joseph's wife had made blackberry macarons filled with a white chocolate buttercream and blackberry jam filling. So of course they made a blackberry puree and lemon custard to complement.
This actually, we just heat the cream up really delicately on the induction cooktop. You add the sugar in, you add the lemon juice in, and that's it, we cut it off. So it's a really kind of temperature sensitive custard because of that. Oh, and you can see I've spattered just a little bit on my apron here.
That's okay, there's washing machines here.
Exactly.
Yes, I am that person making all of the dad jokes all of the time. And this was honestly my ideal dessert. Lemon-flavored desserts are my favorite. I love macarons, I love lemon and berry flavor together, and for extra flair, it was even garnished with edible gold leaf. Oh yeah, she fancy. After lunch, I took the opportunity to film some of the kitchen vignettes.
Hello and welcome to my kitchen. Just kidding, this is Electrolux's kitchen, this is not my kitchen.
And be a little goofy when no one was looking. I really do wish this first one was my kitchen though. It was by far my favorite. This whole room was incredibly impressive. It's a meeting room with a long table in the center surrounded by kitchen vignettes on 3 sides, and then where we had lunch was in a see-through glass-walled room along the 4th. This gorgeous artwork featuring the Electrolux logo is what greets you when you walk in one of the entrances. And this room also houses some of the largest built-in fridges I've ever seen. But more on that later, because we did in fact wind up taking Chef Adam's apron, which they covered in extra blackberry puree, to the washing machines, where they actually let me put the apron into the washer myself and run the machine with the stain soak option selected, which utilizes the Smart Boost pump to recirculate water and whatever detergent and stain treatment, if any, for an additional 20 minutes before the main wash cycle begins. Yeah, I'd say it works pretty well. After watching the stain soak feature work its magic, we met with Brent and N, who told us what it's like to design appliances at Electrolux.
For CMF designer, color, material, and finish designers, we look at the sample, what's our core consumers, and what's the price tiers, is it premium or lower tier, what's the purpose of this design, and then we will consider what's the color scheme and what's the best materials and finishes for this design. We look a lot about on the trends, like what's upcoming, what's a macro trend, what's the fast moving fad, we look at both. And so these are the trend books for your reference. Finishes, sometimes we can have these really rough finishes. And when you touch it, it really gives you different tactility. And sometimes you can have this kind of really smooth tactility. And sometimes it leaves more fingerprints, and sometimes it gives you more durability. So it really depends on what kind of design you try to deliver, who's your target audience. We are now looking a lot into recycled materials because we want to, as a company, we want to be more environmentally friendly. So, but that's hard. That's not easy. But definitely, we have some parts in our units. It's already using recycled plastic, like the pedestal interior liners and also the interior parts. But we're investigating the outer parts to be recycled materials as well. Feel free to explore and to imagine your own design, what kind of colors you want to work with.
And yes, you heard her right. We got to look through all of the different design samples and design our own Electrolux washer. These were the materials I chose, and this is what I came up with. And although I'm not allowed to show you the mock-up they emailed me later because it has the phrase "for internal use only" in giant intimidating text, let's just say that the yellow zinc didn't turn out exactly as I thought it would. But hey, that's why I'm not a designer. I will leave the designing up to the pros.
We call this light booth.
And also showed us the design light booth, and we got to challenge our color differentiating capabilities.
Industry standard, when we check out colors, when we check the samples, trying to see if it matches our target, we check under our light booth. When you want to explore your color sites, you can come here, and we have 4 different hues. So what you have to do, I will mix each row for you one at a time, and you just need to put them in order, start from finish. So these 2 are fixed. So you see from green to purple, and you just need to sort them out by the hue. And then I will input your result in the software that I have there, and it will give you some analysis of your color accuracy.
And let me tell you, I was stoked for this activity. Because if you didn't already know, outside of appliances, I am now and have always been an artist. And despite the fact that I tend to wear a lot of black in my everyday life, I love color. So much so, in fact, that I have games downloaded on my phone where you do exactly this. Get from one color to another by sorting all the colors in between by hue. I do this for fun. I will say, doing this in person is definitely a bit more challenging than playing it as a game on my phone. And yes, I probably took it a little too seriously and took more time on it than I needed to. But I really enjoyed it. As for the analysis of my color site that N input into the computer, here were my results along with N's assessment of what it all meant. Not too bad. Now, there's something I haven't mentioned about this trip yet, because it's a secret. All we were told is that there was going to be some sort of a mystery activity and that even the location was TBD. But I'll give you a hint. You've already seen where we're going. Because unbeknownst to me while I was filming all of the gorgeous kitchen vignettes earlier in the day, one of these kitchens was not like the others. Yep, that's right. Inside one of the fridges at Electrolux HQ is an entire secret room. I don't know whose idea it was to add a secret room, but whoever it was, they're my kind of people. Chef Adam was there to greet us in a room that resembled a modern speakeasy with several large wine fridges and lounge-style seating on one side, and a long dining table on the other where he had hors d'oeuvres waiting for us. It was very cool.
A little charred rare beef tenderloin and our sourdough bread, a little horseradish, arugula, and Asiago cheese. The little square cookie is a espresso.
While we ate, Pam led us in a consumer research activity where Lori and I were able to give her input based on what we felt were our followers' biggest laundry concerns, which I loved because this is exactly how I want to be using my platform, to raise the voices of my followers so that they can be heard by the manufacturers. After our day of information overload, it was back to the hotel to get changed for dinner with everyone from Electrolux and P&G. This was my dinner fit check, with my docs, of course, and these were the selfies I attempted to take in the elevator before realizing that there were diamond etchings all over the mirrors and therefore on my face. We went to a very nice seafood restaurant called Fin and Fino. I did ask one of the servers who confirmed this is a pig's skull for some reason, and also for some reason they apparently like to use very large wine glasses. Sometimes, not always. And that's all the video footage I got from that evening, because dinner took much longer to come out than expected, I had planned poorly, and it resulted in me having a hunger-related panic attack in the bathroom, and needing to go back to the hotel to order my safe foods from room service. Special thanks to Jen from P&G for helping me so much that night. By the next morning, I was feeling better once again, and we went back to Electrolux HQ, where I was able to speak with Sammy and Sarah from P&G about what makes Electrolux washing machines Tide Cold certified.
So we're really excited to partner with Electrolux. We actually have new Tide Cold formulas. And what's great about Electrolux is they have this drawer that actually gives you options to put in the different forms of detergent. So specifically, there is a pods compartment here. So I'm going to put these in here. This is actually really special to Electrolux because you can put the pods into the drawer, and they have specialized pumps and dissolution technologies to make sure that these dissolve properly.
The reason why Electrolux machines are Tide Cold certified, you put your pod in here, it ends up dissolving the pod first in the chamber here, and then it circulates it so that you get a fully dissolved pod that's already started working. And the reason why that's important is because washing in cold water, you're using a lower temperature, which means the other vectors of cleaning, which is mechanical and chemical, become more important. So Electrolux has figured out how to get the full chemical energy benefit through their dispenser here. And we've actually measured that in the Tide testing team. And we've seen when you use this dispenser versus putting the pod in a drum in an Electrolux machine, you do get a greater cleaning benefit.
Typically, you would put your pods into the drum directly before your clothes, but when you do have a drawer that has a specific label for pods, you can be assured that you can use that in the drawer there.
And speaking of Tide Cold certified, Sammy was also able to tell us about Tide's latest innovation.
So you'll see on the market, we actually have a new upgraded Tide Cold formula. So you'll see on certain packages the things that say, for example, designed even for cold water. We want to make sure that our products are working great for all water conditions, but especially for people who want to wash in cold water. And there's a lot of benefits to washing in cold water, not only preserving your clothes, but also reducing the amount of energy you're using to heat the water in the wash process. That our pods are actually turning to a blue color, and this is to help remind consumers to turn to cold. And we also have new technologies in our Tide Pods formula. One of them is a brand new surfactant. So surfactants are typically our grease cutting agents. This surfactant is designed to work even better in cold water. We also have a new enzyme. So enzymes typically help to break apart stains. This new enzyme actually helps to open up the fibers in your clothes so that those bits of things that are stuck in there can actually get out instead of being trapped in the fibers.
What is the energy savings difference in going from washing from either warm or hot to washing in cold water?
So when you switch from hot to cold water, you actually decrease your energy usage by up to 90% because most of the energy used in a washing machine is actually from heating the water. Similarly, when you use warm and you switch to cold, you eliminate 70% of energy usage. Even doing it in 3/4 of your loads is enough to make a pretty big impact in your energy usage in your home and feel confident that you're making the right choice for the environment and for your home.
After speaking with Sarah and Sammy, and getting all of that sweet B-roll footage you've seen throughout this vlog, we headed over to Electrolux's tech center. And while this was, by far, the most exciting part of the trip for me, this lovely wall art in the lobby was the only thing I was able to film because we weren't allowed to take photos or video inside the tech center. Yeah, sorry y'all. I really wish I could have shown you everything they showed us. From the soundproofed quiet room where they measure the decibel levels of their dishwashers, to the giant robot arm they use to stress test their washer doors. But instead, you get this makeup-free selfie of me in one of the tech center conference rooms with my fancy new tumbler. We left straight from the tech center to the airport where I admired the beautiful airport art, as is tradition. I bought food to eat once I got through security, which was paid for via technology magic. I gave North Carolina one final goodbye. And then my flight home was delayed by several hours. Luckily, Jessie from P&G was kind enough to let me be her guest in one of the airport's lounges, while I got to eat tasty food while I waited out the delay. But more on that in another video.